we have Gayathri with us. Gayathri is a passionate technology leader who has breadth of expertise across multiple roles, QA, BA, IM, PM, etc. She has worked in multiple domains, including travel, non-profitable organizations, retail, banking, and with a range of technology. Welcome you, Gayathri. Over to you.
Hello, thanks Soumya. So let me share my screen. Hello everyone, good evening once again all. So today we'll see how to include accessibility into our SDLC. So accessibility has become one of the key themes where many of the Fortune 500 companies are getting sued these days because of lack of accessibility features. So we need to understand how can we incorporate accessibility features in our SDLC. So we'll quickly go over different tools and different phases in which can be included. Accessibility could be included. So this is the agenda of the session today. So quickly going over it, as I said, we'll be seeing what is the accessibility, the ecosystem of tools and methodologies that supports accessibility end to end, the W3C initiative, which is setting the standards for accessibility for web content, and the different stages in which accessibility could be integrated into our software development cycle. And finally, we'll see the accessibility certification, which will be needed for going live. So, with this agenda, let's start with what is accessibility. So, accessibility means that we are enabling our websites to be accessed by all people with disabilities. So far, I think when we say accessible, what we mean by is people should be able to perceive, understand, navigate through the website, and also contribute to back to the website. So when we also say disabilities, there is a range of disabilities that we need to consider, including auditory impairments, cognitive disabilities, neurological impairments, physical, speech, and visual impairments. So there is a range of different features that will be needed to enable the web to be accessible for all of these disabilities. A couple of quick examples around the features that might be needed is, let's say that somebody has a visual impairment, so they're not totally blind, but when the web content is like too small or the color contrast is not so great on the website, they have struggled to read the content and navigate through the website. So what do we do for them? Can we actually include features where the color contrast is better, there is a good readable legible content for people to navigate through the website with visual impairments? The other example that we could think of is, let's say that someone is deaf, and the only way that the website produces content for them is through videos. So what could be done to enable such a user to access the website? So having some transcriptions of the video in a textual format will help them to understand what is being presented there in the video. So a couple of examples would have given an idea of some of the features that we need to think of from the accessibility point of view. So though we are talking about inclusivity, it is also a business use case. So businesses want to expand and acquire a lot of users these days. If we see from that point of view, the disabled community is said to be the third largest economy, with the largest economy in terms of purchasing power. And the study says that 1 in 5 of the population are disabled. So that makes a business use case on why we need to invest in web accessibility too. Um, Though we are saying that only 1 in 5 of the population is disabled, the features that we will be providing for enabling accessibility is going to be useful for all of the users, irrespective of disabilities. So that's the saying that says on the top, which is essential to some but useful for all. So, to give some examples on how the accessibility features will be useful for all of us, let's consider some of these scenarios. So, let's just say we are using mobile phones, smart watches, smart TVs, etc. And have we ever wondered that the text could be little more larger, right? At least I would have wondered, like, should I squeeze my eyes to go there, zoom in, zoom out? So these sort of things is useful for even a normal person with a normal vision also. And other areas, like as we grow older, we are also tend to get some visual impairments or cognitive impairments, and it's a common phase of aging when those sort of users also need these accessibility features. And temporary disabilities is also common for some of us. I mean, we could fall down, we have a broken arm or something, and we need keyboard accessibility, we can't use mouse. That is a possibility. And some limitations, like it's very bright, or there is a problem with an internet, like in a rural areas, we might not have an access to stream the video content very quickly. In that case, even for them, the textual transcription that might come along with the video will be very useful. So this is what we mean by that, essential to some, but the features are going to be useful for all of the users in the business case. So this is like a quick video to help us visualize how people with disabilities access the web. So is the audio, uh, can you hear the audio, Shakti?
No, Gayatri.
Okay.
So like while sharing, right, we have to select an option to share the audio there. Maybe you can
Okay.
stop share and share once again.
Okay.
There'll be an option called like share sound.
Okay. Great.
Cool.
Thanks.
Accessibility perspectives. Keyboard compatibility. Not being able to use your computer because your mouse doesn't work is frustrating. Many people use only the keyboard to navigate websites, either through preference or circumstance. Whether it's temporarily limited mobility, a permanent physical disability, or simply a broken mouse, the result is the same. Websites and apps need to be operable by keyboard. Web accessibility. Essential for some, useful for all. Visit w3.org/WA.
So as we saw in the video, we saw that there is an entire use case of uh, how these accessibility features could be useful for all of us. And also we saw a disabled person using a stick and a setup of tools to access the web in the last section of it. So we will deep dive into the ecosystem in the next
Web accessibility
section.
perspectives.
So the ecosystem that I was mentioning, that there are multiple tools and components that need to work together in order to make the web content accessible for everyone. Like in the last section of the video, we saw that there is a keyboard accessibility that is necessary, and there is a stick that is actually used by the person to click on the keyboard. So another case could be like if somebody is having a visual impairment, they might be using a screen reader to hear the content as they navigate through the website. So this is a kind of ecosystem that needs to work together end to end. Let's just see that, for example, for someone to read from the web page through a screen reader, first of all, the web browser needs to understand how to integrate with the screen reader. So it needs to present the content from the web page in a way that screen reader could properly navigate the user through the web content. So the web development tools and practices also should enable in such a way that we have features and components that can be integrated to read the content, to be read by the screen reader. So all of these technologies and tools needs to integrate end to end for us to enable accessibility features. So in the industry right now, to make sure that all of these systems are following some standards, we have the W3C WAI initiative. So what is this initiative? W3C stands for World Wide Web Consortium, and WAA stands for Web Accessibility Initiative. So it is an international community led by Tim Berners-Lee that works with all the organizations and public users to establish standards for the web. So this consortium and this initiative sets the standards for web content and all of the previously said tools and technologies, so that all the components have some standards so that easily they can integrate from end to end to enable accessibility. So specifically, if we see the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is the WCAG 2.0, is a standard for web content. So as a software development team, we need to be aware of this WCAG 2.0 so that while we develop the website, we are providing those accessibility friendly content for the users. So it has like 3 levels, and each levels has different standards to which we need to adhere. So when we are saying we need to develop web content, there could be some non-native HTML elements also. There is a standard guidelines for them also, which is the Accessible Rich Internet Application Specification, WA area specifications. So together, we need to be aware of the WCAG 2.0 and also WA area standards to make sure that we are providing accessibility friendly content to the users. So far we have seen that it's a business use case and also it's useful for all. And also the W3C consortium is trying to set up standards, but it needs to be implemented through a legal standardizations for companies to adhere very promptly. So this is what is happening these days. We have many countries that are setting up proper rules and guidelines, making sure that some of the sectors of these industries should definitely be adhering to these standards. So as you see in the list, this is like a couple of them, but there's a long list of rules and regulations against disability that mentions that the industry, like the public sector and the private sector, government sector, so that industry should adhere compulsorily to WCAG 2.0. So if we are in a place where we are developing a software for one of these sectors, we should be conscious that we are adhering to these standards. So some of the clauses from WCAG 2.0 level A for better understanding. So this is not a comprehensive list of all the clauses, but to understand what these requirements are, we'll quickly go over some of them. All non-text content like images should have alternate text. So when the screen reader is reading the images or videos, there should be some kind of an alt text that tells the story for when they are hearing the web content from the screen reader. So the one point to note is the alternate text should be meaningful. So I mean, sometimes we do tend to provide some alt text just for the sake of providing it, but we need to be conscious about describing the image or the video in a meaningful way, keeping the accessibility in mind. The audio or video content should have a text transcript. like we spoke about earlier. So it should not be the only way for the users to access the web. There should be other options like text for people with disabilities to use the web, and even in the other cases for low internet bandwidth and everything. The information structure on the page should be properly structured with hierarchy like title, heading, page title, etc. So this helps the screen readers to properly navigate on the page. Otherwise, what happens, there is a clutter of information, and if the user have to complete an action such as like search for flight tickets, if there is like the left hand side of the panel has some advertisements that are running, and that comes in between the DOM structure, the hierarchy will be broken, and user with the screen reader will not be able to finish the functionality. So making sure that the structure of the page has a proper hierarchy, so that the screen reader will be able to tell the user in a manner that they can finish the functionality. And as we spoke earlier, the color contrast between the background and the foreground of the web page should be proper. It is not, I mean, there is a specific sensitivity ratio given by the guidelines. And keyboard only navigation support is something that is, we should think about it. Mouse cannot be the only way to access the web. The user should be able to complete the entire functionality on the website only using keyboard. And while making sure that keyboard only navigation is possible, we should also make sure that the focus of the elements are properly placed. While reading each of these highlighted elements, how does it read? And making sure that the keyboard is not getting locked in a certain area, like waiting for it. There should be proper navigation back and forth and exiting from the area. Avoiding some modal windows during that, because there could be the screen reader will follow some kind of a structured approach, but when a modal window comes up, then there is disruption in it and the flow is bothered. Provide enough time for users to read the content fully. So not all users are uh, cognitively empowered in the same way. So we need to be aware that we need to give the functionality to make sure that there is enough pause and stop. If there is a content that is like provided in an automated sequential manner, the functionality to pause and adjust and giving enough reading time is important. And content that is flashing too many times with animations, right, that could actually cause physical reactions like seizures for some people. So making sure that the design of the application itself does not have these kind of animations and too many bright flashes is like one of the requirements. The markup language content should follow some pattern, like we were talking about. It should have a proper closing and opening tags, no duplicates, unique IDs, because this is the DOM structure that the screen reader is going to parse and read. So we need to make sure that all the elements are properly structured with header tags, main, navigation panels, everything. And each of the elements inside should have their properties defined properly for the screen reader and other assistive technologies to read them through, like name, role, state of the elements, like is it hidden, like is it checked or is it false, like exactly the state of the element and the purpose of the element should be properly mentioned. And probability and the ability to skip the repetitive content also is like one of the need for structuring the website. So there are many more such clauses that will be needed to adhere to level A conformance of WCAG 2.0. So these are some things that is like very basic things that while development we need to be conscious of, and also during the design phase we need to be conscious of while putting together while putting the feature together. So we'll come to the part where how can we integrate accessibility in SDLC. First thing is defining accessibility user personas. So when we are doing the analysis of the features, we usually tend to have user personas starting with the business use case personas, um, but including accessibility user personas from then on will be the right phase to start the integrating accessibility. Because if we see that, for example, as we were saying, the video should have transcript, so which means that the design of the page itself should be like there is a video section and in the bottom there is a transcript for it. So which means even during the design phase itself, we need to start thinking of such personas. And having those personas and then thinking over it over every breakdown of the feature will help us identify new scenarios and to the level of conformance that we want to stick to. So sometimes it is enough to stick to level A conformance, which is the minimum level. And if we are going to give higher level of conformance, it's the business's choices. So some of the user personas definitions could look like this. For example, like Matt, 30-year-old business professional, has a broken arm. He needs a keyboard only access. Helen is an 80-year-old retired teacher who has a poor sensitivity to colors. So then we need color contrast. So this is all like examples of how defining user personas will lead to having features that are accessibility friendly. So the examples of cognitive disabilities will make us think of a clear layout with proper headings and navigation bars. And if we have the user persona who's blind and he's independently managing a store, which means that he will not be able to have any assistance, but only the text to speech and voice recognition support. And also reduced dexterity is a disability. Movement of our hands is very limited. There is only the user is not able to manage a precision at which they can click, which means that the buttons on our pages, all the links on the pages should be designed in such a way that they are able to manage with the reduced dexterity. And as we spoke about, what if there is a cooking enthusiast who is deaf? We need proper recipe videos for, if only the captions for the recipe videos could be the only way that we can bring in Philip into the system. Similarly, non-native English speakers could be one of the uses. So providing some big jargons or complex words as instructions or error messages would actually not be friendly or accessible for such a user. So defining these user personas will enable us to identify features in each of the aspects of the web, and also feeds into the design perspectives. So once we have the personas defined, we have the development phase. So as we saw earlier, making sure that we have all text properly, the tags being properly closed, having a structure in which that screen reader can read, are some of the things that we need to include during development. So screen readers particularly read the page in the order of the accessibility tree. So accessibility tree is a DOM-like structure in web pages, only used by the screen readers to read out. So it is possible for us to basically hide some of the elements from the accessibility tree and make it only visible for the main content also. So taking care of how the accessibility tree is structured is the goal in the development phase. Like like we spoke about this, like roles IDs defined properly, like for example defining a button area label which is only screen reader friendly. So we need to understand that a button would be read in a screen reader as a button with this role and with this name and what action we need to perform on it. Like a radio button, what does it do for it? So giving those statuses and proper attribute definitions will help the screen reader user to proceed properly. One of the screen readers is VoiceOver, which is an inbuilt screen reader in Mac. So any Mac users could just get a hang of how the screen readers work by using the VoiceOver. So it's just enabled in Mac. We can go and start it from the settings and get a hang of how the screen reader is really working, so that we will be able to understand the end user perspective. Um, and choosing accessibility supported frameworks for development will help the development team to accelerate this. React fully supports accessible websites. There is a linting plugin, ESLint plugin A11Y, which will actually call out clearly during development itself if some accessibility rules are broken, integrating such linting plugins. And the Angular material library comes up with some suite of reusable components that are fully accessible also. And CodeLaser is another linting rules that will help us to set the standards in these languages. And Vue.js is once again has accessible components built itself. And specifically, there is an auditing library, Vuex, which will do an auditing on the code and let us know that some of the accessibility standards are missing also. So this will help in accelerating and providing feedback during development on the developer machine itself. So that way, we are making sure that most of the content during development itself is accessibility friendly, and it doesn't need redo, basically. So after we have done the development, moves to testing phase. So for accessibility manual testing, usually the recommended way is to have a checklist, like derived from the user personas, whichever user personas is chosen for that particular website. We need to have a checklist added as part of every story. This is like a cross-functional requirement, and the checklist will be verified every single time for the story. So this website, AW1Y project, is something that gives us a list of checklists by default. We could also use this for making sure that we have covered all the aspects of um, accessibility during the manual testing phase. So there are accessibility testing tools also. So there's a Wave tool and this Google Lighthouse tool. Maybe I'll show that how it works also. So as I was saying, the checklist is here. The A11Y project has a checklist here, which says like this is for the level of conformance for each of the elements. What is the success criteria? So we can go through each one of them to make sure that we have done all of those required things for our particular website. So the tools part, the Wave tool. So this is the Wave tool. So these tools, what it does is it makes sure that it reads the DOM structure of the page and assesses if there are missing accessibility standards. What we need to be aware of is these tools are only checking the structure of the website. It is not making sure any navigation part or how intuitive the text is to read. Those are human elements still that needs to be verified by a manual tester or during the development phase itself. So these tools does help though, because making sure all the tags are closed or making sure that all the images does have an alt text. So from a structural point of view, it points out clearly that something is missing and helps us to go fix it back. So all you have to do is give this website URL in this web page. And once you give it, it throws an analysis of what is missing and the errors part of it. So this website, the demo website that I have used here, is a demo website built by W3C, WAI people, so that it is a training ground to learn accessibility. So that's what I've used here, and hence you see there is a lot of errors here. And we can see the details. So it says that there are 19 missing alternative text. There is 7 linked image missing alternative. So it also provides details here, like what does it even mean, linked missing. An image without alternative text results in an empty link. So it doesn't have an alternative. Spacer image. So language missing or invalid. Contrast errors, like for the, I mean, this does the color contrast verifications here. And there are a lot of alerts that have been put in place also. So this way we are able to see that uh, a quick auditing of how the web page is structured. Similarly, we also have Google Lighthouse. So basically, it's like part of the um, Chrome dev tool itself. So when we have the Lighthouse, we can see that there is an accessibility. So this is Lighthouse here, and simply you can generate a report out of it. So this does the same structural validation on the web page element and gives us some some remediation for fixing that also. So there's this internationalization localization that is missing. There's a HTML element does not have a lang attribute. So there's like a lot of help that is also given on how to fix that also. There's a learn more that is there. So exactly pointing out which element does not have a particular attribute and also providing a remediation step to take is something that the Lighthouse provides. So as you see, the Lighthouse has scored this website as just 51% accessible. And going back to our slide. So while testing, we could also use these tools apart from the checklist, which is a common place to make sure that everything is working, to see if something is broken. Um, and once this testing is done manually, we can also include accessibility checks in the CA pipeline. So there are several tools that does the same auditing that is provided by Wave and Lighthouse. That mostly it is like a structural auditing. We need to be very careful there because only partially that is making sure that the accessibility checks are enabled. The remaining half is still a human element there, and it is also coming from a design perspective and all. So those parts of testing, like actually having an end user going through the entire flow using a keyboard, or making sure that the end user is using a screen reader to finish the entire functionality, is still a manual part. What these accessibility tools are making sure is in the CA is once again making sure that the structural part of it is good. So the PAYCA node package is available where we can configure it with the viewport of what exactly is the area that we want the accessibility checks to be run, and also the list of URLs in the website to be run against. So this is like a very simple tool which can be integrated with the CA and it will generate a report just like how we saw earlier in the couple of tools earlier. Lighthouse is also providing a CLI version of it. Once again, it's like a node package, and then all we have to do is run this command and it generates the same report that we saw earlier in Chrome. And Axe core library is the core library based on which all of these tools are built upon. So this Axe core has many variations of it. Like it is, as we saw earlier, Vue.js also has a specific version of it, Vue Axe. So even Selenium has a Selenium Axe, and Cypress has a Cypress Axe. So what we can do is use this library to also integrate accessibility checks in our functional test suite and write tests. So that is like as part of your automated functional tests, there will be accessibility checks that are made on each page and a report is generated. But the only caveat is the feedback is going to be really much further in the pipeline. When you can integrate using these tools which are much closer to development itself. Like as part of building the project itself, we could run these accessibility checks to get faster feedback instead of integrating in the functional test suite, which is like a much later stage in which this checks is happening. So accessibility testing could be integrated in the CA as well. So that way we saw that from design, analysis, development, manual testing, and CA integration. And we spoke about end-to-end testing also with real users, where screen readers could be really used and made sure that the functionality could be completed properly. And also different ways of accessibility friendly devices. Like screen reader is not the only thing that is only assistive technology. So as we were talking, there are switches which could be used, and there are different devices that could be used. So sometimes if we are able to have a real user who has disability and uses some kind of these devices, that will be an enhanced feedback for the development team. But still, that's something that we can look at getting those feedbacks. So last part is accessibility certification. So this is not like a standard agency that will provide the certification so far, but there are companies who have gained a lot of expertise in accessibility testing, and they do provide their own certificates. It's not like a centralized certification, but the organizations provide their own certificates after testing the software completely, if it is conforming to particular level, like we were talking about level A, level AA, level AAA. So this is a format that is prescribed by W3C WAI, the standardized initiative. So suppose like some of the features are missing, we could still provide these certificates in court, saying that we did go through these standardized procedures to get the conformance. So these organizations, the accessibility certification organization, could also provide facilities to actually test it with a real disabled users sometimes. So though not properly mandated. So once we get the accessibility certification, actually it is not a mandatory thing to get the certificate before going live, but even after going live, if we are able to procure this certification, then it is safer for the company who is doing, I mean, for the industry or the companies as a business. So this is like the end-to-end flow in which accessibility could be integrated into the SDLC folks. So that's like the end of the presentation. So I'm open for questions.
If you have any questions, we can use the Q&A box, or you can even raise hands so that I can unmute you. You can ask directly to Gayathri. I will wait 2 more minutes, Gayathri,
Sure.
for questions. Cool.
Yes.
I think your session was too clear. Like folks don't have any doubt.
Thanks a lot, people. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Oh, we got a question here. Just in time.
So I'm not really aware of any specific names, Julian.
Gayatri, can you read out the question so that others will be aware of the question that's being asked?
Okay. So Julian had asked if there are names of the organizations that provide accessibility certifications, and will they cost a lot of money? So I know that I can provide some examples on how some companies do this. So basically, so as I said, the certification is like a standard that is being given in the W3C WAI website. So it's like a format where some fields have to be filled in, all of those. So sometimes what the companies do is, some of the product companies do is, they have their own accessibility certification team which is sitting inside the organization itself. So what they need to do is basically go over all of those checklist in the report as provided by the standards from the W3C WAI initiative, and fill in those reports and make sure that it is working. So that is also a format in which the companies operate. But I'm not aware of any specific company name that provides this in India right now. And not sure of the cost, because the only model that I have seen so far is having a team inside the product organization itself to do these kind of certification, because they have a lot of products and it's better to have the accessibility trained um, people who does this for all the products and have the certificates generated. Because as I said, there is no centralized agency or a centralized standardization for authorizing the certificates. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you for joining me in the evening today. Hope the session was useful.
Thanks for the wonderful session, Gayatri, for patiently and detailedly explaining everything. Thanks for everyone who joined. So now I'll be posting a link for this feedback for the current talk which Gayatri gave. Please spend your valuable 1 or 2 minutes to fill this out, so that will be really helpful for us. So for now, we'll close this bridge. Please take time to fill your feedbacks. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gayatri.
Thank you, people.